Hey all, welcome to the first episode of our podcast.
Cryptid.
I knew that would happen. I was like, I'm not even going to attempt to say it. You say it.
Okay. Cryptic cryptids. Yes.
Do it again.
Cryptic cryptids.
You should do it again.
Cryptic cryptids.
It's really important that you go deeds in the second one.
You must watch. Cryptid cryptids.
Okay, welcome to our first episode. If you're watching us, hello. If you're listening to us, hello as well. Our sound might be different after this episode. Our setup also might change. This is the first episode. We don't know what we're doing.
Trial run. So
yeah, this is basically a guinea pig situation. We don't know what we're doing. But we're here to have fun, right?
Yep. My name is Eric.
And I'm Morgan. Hopefully you know who we are. You have to, right? If you found your way here.
Who she is.
You have, yeah.
If you're subbed to your Patreon, you know who I am.
That's true. You're on YouTube as well.
Quite a bit. I am on YouTube.
Quite a bit. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about
cryptic cryptids.
So this is going to be a storytelling-based podcast.
We're going to be telling stories that you've sent in.
And also our own. And from literally everywhere. This first episode is Appalachia-based because we are Appalachia-based. That is literally the only reason. So please send in stories from all over the country. But we will be talking a lot about Appalachia because we are Appalachia.
Exactly. And before we read any of your stories, we're going to tell one of our own. But we'll get to that later.
Yes. So we will be uploading here. You'll be able to listen. As of right now, I have no idea when we're filming this.
Well, as of when we upload, we're initially going to upload to Spotify and to Apple Music.
Yes, and YouTube for the visuals. So if you're watching it on YouTube. And we'll be doing this every single Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. To send us stories, there is a little bit of a different email. It's not the Morg's Haunting ones that you guys usually send to. It is this one. But like I said, please send us stories from literally everywhere. We are telling all of them. We're going to talk about them. We're going to all get scared together. It's going to be a fun time. We're currently filming this at 7 p.m. It's dark outside. And, I'm just ready to be terrified. We are telling you guys a story that happened to us in Appalachia at night while being in Appalachia at night. So I feel like that dedication deserves a little bit of applause. We're putting ourselves in danger, folks, okay? So now that I have rambled for nearly 10 minutes, let's get into the reason that everyone is here, and that is mother-freaking story time. So this story, you guys maybe have heard if you followed me elsewhere. It is one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me in my life, and it happened last year? It happened in the 20s.
It happened.
That for sure. 2020, not 1920s. I'm not an immortal vampire, although I wish I was.
Crazy style. We're going to be starting off this podcast strong. This story still sends shivers down my spine.
This was one of the, first Appalachian-based things that you went through, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
As far as folklore goes?
It's definitely one of the things that I experienced firsthand.
Yeah. So, let's get on into the story. First, we have to do a little bit of background because this takes place at my family's farm, and you need to know about that, and you need to know what it looks like out there so that you understand how absolutely horrific this was.
And if you're coming here from Morg's Hauntings, you already know how scary it is.
Yeah, not only do I talk about that farm a lot, but you've seen it.
Yeah.
So this farm is around 90 acres of hay fields, normal fields, mostly trees. That's the thing that's the most alarming, is it's mostly surrounded by trees and just contains so many freaking trees. Mm-hmm. And I grew up on that farm. So here's the situation, and I'm probably doxing myself in a way, but you turn onto the road that I grew up on, right? You drive up the road. At the top of that hill, you'll go to my childhood home. You keep going, and then you end up at the farm. Now, the farm contains a bunch of sheds, the barn, of course, and my dad's childhood home that is vacant and falling apart and so absolutely incredibly haunted, and we will be talking about that. But for this particular story, we were at my childhood home on the other side of that hill on that farm, still surrounded by the freaking woods.
This was the middle of summer, and it was me, Morgan, and her parents just hanging out on the porch.
You're forgetting about a key family member that was out there.
Oh, Finn.
That was my dog, Finn.
Insert the picture of the sausage.
He is the best. We love Finn. Listen, backstory on Finn, first of all, because, I mean, this is an immersive storytelling experience. You guys need all the details, okay? Finn was given to me by Eric's best friend when I was in high school, who was my boyfriend.
Boo.
And my parents did not want me to get a dog, specifically my dad. And they fell in love with him so much that when we moved out of the house years later, I was not allowed to take him. That was suddenly their dog, and I could not have him.
Which is fine, because the boy's at the vet more than he's not.
He's allergic to oxygen. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about. Back to the story. We're outside at my parents' house. It's later at night, and I was trying to get Finn's attention, because he is my dog, okay? And I just wanted him to come sit with me. But here's the thing about Finn. If he is sitting with my dad, he does not go anywhere else. That is where his story stops. That is where he stays. And that's what was happening. So, the sun has set in Appalachia. We are all sitting outside. And I'm trying to get this dog's attention. What do?
The one thing you shouldn't, if you're native to Appalachia, or if you've come here and you've lived here for a long time, there's one thing you're not supposed to do in the woods of Appalachia. And that's whistle.
I whistled. I
Yeah,
did.
so she caught Finn's attention, and about 15 cryptics that are out in the woods.
Cryptics?
Cryptids.
So yes, I whistled to get my dog's attention, and immediately realized what I did. I looked over at Eric, and we just at the same time were like, oh, okay.
Haunted expressions.
So then after that, I'm trying to figure out, I think it was like kind of chill for a second. My mom had went inside to do something, and it was just us outside with my dad. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I literally think I trauma blocked this. I should have watched the video that I made right after this happened to refresh, but I didn't. Anyways, we were sitting outside. Mom had went inside the house, and something screamed.
Yeah, there was just a bone-chilling scream, and in these parts of the woods, there are bobcats, which do like to scream, and a lot of people have described them as, like, this scream of a woman, but this was, like...
This was a male scream, first of all.
Yeah, this was a male scream, first of all, but, like, I mean, like, I've heard less haunting screams in like, car accidents and stuff like that. This was a nightmarish scream.
This is what I imagine my scream would sound like if a raccoon somehow found its way into my stomach and started eating me from the inside out.
Literally a Terrifier-esque scream.
Yes, literally that type of scream. And so I froze. Eric froze.
And your dad did nothing because he was talking about something else.
No, that's not true. I don't know if you remember this or not. Dad stopped talking and he said, "What was that?" Like, he said, which is something else you're not supposed to do. The what is very important because he did say it like that.
You can't do that?
You're not supposed to acknowledge it.
Oh, I thought you meant the way he said it.
Oh, if you come into Appalachia, do not say what.
What?
No, so he did. He said, "What was that?" And I remember I changed the subject. I literally I think I asked him a World War II question so that he would hyper-focus on it.
Yeah.
But nothing else happened. My mom came back outside eventually, and then I recommended we all go inside. I was like, it's getting cold, and then she got real annoyed because she had just came back outside.
Yeah.
And I remember we went inside for a while. And I think, I don't know how you were feeling, but in my brain I was contemplating, do we stay here or do we go?
Absolutely.
Because here's the thing, it could go either way. It really could. So my thought process was, we called this thing in, it's here for us. If we leave, my parents are safe. That was my thought process. Mm-hmm. A lot of people online did not think that when I told that, and they were like, oh, so you just left your parents to die. No, I was trying my best to keep them safe.
Also, there is always a chance that these things will just pass by and ignore it, especially if you've gone inside.
Yes. So we stayed inside for a while. I made the decision to say, all right, well, I guess we better head on out. Did the old Appalachian Southern goodbye, and it took 25 minutes to get out of the house after I stood up. But, I know I walked out of the house first, and you were not behind me.
No.
You were still saying goodbye. So I remember walking out, opening their gate to keep little Finn in the porch, closing it behind me, walking down the steps, and as soon as my feet hit the little, like, concrete slab to get to their driveway, I could have thrown up.
Yeah.
I got so nauseous. And so I kept walking. And the way the house is set up when you're walking out, so you go off of that concrete slab and now you're on the gravel driveway. And to your right is a huge storage building where you will find everything my dad has ever collected in his life shoved in that building. And then after you pass that, you have nothing to protect you from the woods behind their house. And so I know as soon as I got past that building, because we had to park a little bit down the driveway and I was exposed walking.
Yeah.
I felt the eyes. I felt it on me from those trees to my right. And I remember thinking, don't look, don't look, don't look. And I just looked forward, and I remember putting my hand on the car door and turning and waiting for you to come out.
Yeah.
But I was being really careful not to look. So now you tell your point of view, because I don't know what you were thinking. If you guys hear a scratching, my cats are scratching their mushroom scratching post.
Should we move that?
No, they're fine.
Oh, give her a second.
Scratch break. Most podcasts have ad breaks. We have cat scratch breaks.
For now. Okay. So, by the time that I had came out, Morgan had her hand on the door, and she was already, down off the porch. And I just remember keeping my eyes locked on her. If anything, I just knew, if anything, keep your eyes on her. You don't want to get your eyes off. Because you have no idea what could happen in any split second if you were to look away. We don't say anything to each other. We exchange a nod, understanding exactly what we need to do. I'm walking to the car. I unlock it. I make sure Morgan gets in the seat. And then I get in the car.
Because I actually drove out of there.
Oh, did you drive out of there?
Mm-hmm. Because I remember I was standing at the driver's side door and you opened my door for me and let me in.
You did drive out of there.
Yeah, because where I grew up there, if it is a high stress situation, I will always drive. Because to get away from where I grew up, you have to drive across like a big mountain with no rails.
No guardrails.
To keep you from plummeting to your death. There is nothing there.
No. And it's just a bunch of twists over like 50 feet drops.
Yeah. So if it's a high stress situation, I will drive every time. And I remember we got in the car, still didn't say anything. We looked at each other of just like an understanding of, hey, we can't talk about it right now. And I remember putting the car in reverse, and I genuinely do not remember anything about the drive until we were at the top of that mountain surrounded by those trees. Mm-hmm. And then
at the very top of those mountains, at the very top of that mountain is when we heard something make the exact same whistle that Morgan just did. And it sounded far away. Like, it sounded like it was at least a few acres back. But the thing about these creatures that mimic these whistles, if it sounds far away, it's close. If it sounds close, it's far away. So this thing was probably right behind us. You didn't floor it, but you did hit the gas. And that whistle just kept echoing off the trees, bouncing back and forth. So it could have been one thing, it could have been multiple of them. But like I said, we didn't floor it, we didn't fly out of there, but we had a sense of urgency to us. And this thing just kept following us. Like, it did not get louder, it didn't get quieter, but it was after us.
I remember while we were driving, it's like no matter how far we got, it just sounded the exact same distance, but it was like bouncing off of the trees.
Yeah.
Like, and we had all of the windows up, and I was hearing it so clearly.
Like, as if like we were in like a convertible.
Yeah, but it was so loud. And I remember it kept going until we were out of those trees at the end of that road at the stop sign. And I finally felt like I could breathe again when we did. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know how we got away.
No, I'm not sure either. Like,
I firmly believe that these things don't give a shit about cars.
No,
like, cars
don't.
are simply just an obstacle in their way.
Well, you've had stories sent to you that proves that they don't. There's someone that had like a chunk out of their SUV in the Smokies.
I think it's simply just another task it has to do before it gets to you. So I don't know if it was just not feeling it that day, but I don't know how we got away from that. I really don't.
And it's not like, and like I definitely think that there's something out there in those particular part of the woods, because your parents' neighbors have had experiences of it taking livestock.
Well, literally, around that exact same time that happened, actually, I'm pretty sure my mom was telling us about that the day we were there.
Yeah.
Their neighbor right in front of them has a chicken coop, and they keep it, like, locked up tight at night because coyotes are no joke out there. And every morning, they were waking up, and just more and more of their chickens were just gone.
Except for the bones.
Yeah, there was bones left, but it's like there was no way, there was no sign of anything getting in, there was no sign of the chickens getting out. It was literally just there. And there was no way to explain that. And this is off subject a lot, but kind of after this happened, my dad was describing to me a deer that they kept seeing, and something about these creatures is they can look like whatever they want to look like. And he said this particular deer was by itself, and it would come to their front porch and just stare at them through the, like, banisters, I think is what it's called. And my parents' dog doesn't really bark at deer because they're everywhere. They live on the farm. Would lose his shit. Finn would lose his mind to the point that they would have to go inside if they were outside barking at this deer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's connected, but it makes you wonder.
Personally, I think it was whatever this thing was. It wasn't after us to try and, like, get us. If it wanted us, it would have gotten us. I think this thing was trying to, like, toy with us or scare us, and it did.
The thing is about these creatures is they will play with their food. And I think that's what it's doing. If you give them any sort of game, I mean, they're gonna play it. So, you running, you're suddenly clicking on that predator drive. Your prey. They're gonna chase you. But yeah, that could have went horribly. That could have went horribly.
But thankfully, other than the whistle itself, we followed the rules. We didn't stare off into the woods. We didn't run. We didn't scream. We didn't acknowledge it. We avoided the topic altogether. You have to pretend like you did nothing. You have to pretend like you have heard or have seen nothing. That is the only way that you're going to make it out alive.
That also means not talking about it with anyone you're with until you're to safety. And you'll know in your gut when you're safe. And this wasn't the only thing that happened out in that area around that time.
No, it's not.
In these same mountains, just down the road a bit, my friend also would have an experience a few weeks apart, right?
Yeah.
If not just like a week or two.
At the very most, it was like 1 month, maybe. Because I knew it was that same summer.
And I'm going to have to... It's been a while since she's told me the story and since I filmed about it. So I'm going to try to go off my memory of it.
I remember the beginning of it.
I remember the beginning. Yeah, you can tell it. But what I'm having trouble remembering, because they saw it. They saw the creature. And I'm having a hard time remembering exact details. But I think I got it. If you want to start it, go for it.
So this was our friend and her little family, which included her husband and their... I think at the time he was like, what, he was 2? Or was he 1? He was younger than 1, wasn't he?
He was probably around 1, and she was pregnant at the time.
with their 1-year-old son, and she was pregnant at the time. They were going off this new trail in our area, and they had made it maybe... What did you say, like a half a mile?
They were almost to the... So the trail led to an abandoned water tower.
That's right.
And they were almost to the top of it. So they were very far away from their car.
And deep in the woods. Because they put these water towers in our area in, like, the middle of the woods.
I can actually... I don't know if you'll be able to editing, but I have pictures of the water tower when I hiked it.
Yeah.
So we can insert those here of what it looks like. Literally nothing but woods surrounding it.
And... I'm trying to remember exactly what happened next. I just remember it was, they were walking, and they weren't having any trouble, and she heard a whistle, right?
It was a bird.
She heard a bird.
There was a
bird.
Yeah. She said it sounded off. She knew immediately when she heard it that something sounded off. And her baby automatically clocked it, that something was off, and he started crying, which isn't really a thing he does.
No,
but he hears a bird especially.
Very calm baby, and it's just like in the middle of the woods you're gonna hear hundreds of birds, but it's like this one was just like so jarring.
Yeah. And she said it started off sounding like it was pretty close, and then it would get farther away, which, as we've already established, is real bad. Mm-hmm. So she calmly tried to tell her baby daddy that, hey, we need to go back. She was like, it's getting dark, because it was. That's another thing. They went to do this kind of late at night. The sun was setting. They didn't really need to be in the woods at that time anyways,
Exactly.
but we'll talk about that. So the bird sounds kept happening. Baby keeps crying. She's telling her baby daddy, hey, we need to go. We need to go. So they eventually go back. They get back to the bottom when it's nighttime, and they get in the car. And her baby daddy's not really a believer in stuff.
He doesn't believe that there's like cryptids out in the woods.
No, he's not. Yeah, that's not really his thing. But he starts feeling weird. And you know it's bad when a skeptic starts feeling it. So they're making sure their baby's in the car, and he's telling her, something's wrong. I'm sensing something, like something is in these woods. Mm-hmm. He might have been thinking it was like a coyote or something. But she was like, keep your head down, shut your mouth, literally shut your mouth, and let's just get in the car. So they get into the truck, and he's like, something's behind us. Something is behind this truck. And she says, don't look. I love you. Why don't men listen?
Well, I mean,
why don't they listen? What did this man do?
He looks. And from what I remember they described it as, he said it had to have been at least anywhere between, I think he said it was like 8
to 10 feet.
8 or 10 feet tall. Solid black.
Nope, gray.
It was gray.
It was light
That's
gray.
right, yeah. It was light gray, but the entire thing of it was gray. And it had like
2 black eye holes, which might have been what you were thinking
eye
of.
sockets. That's what it was. Yeah, its eye sockets were solid black.
And it was disproportionate in the sense of its limbs, like its arms and legs, were so long.
They were so long and gangly.
So, of course, upon seeing this, he floors
the gas.
Which
Bad
is something
idea.
else. We will talk about everything that went wrong in the story. But floors the gas, looks up again. This thing is chasing behind their car.
And it's not losing distance either. It's right behind him.
No, they probably, I think she said, they hit maybe 60 miles an hour coming off of that hill. And it was keeping up distance just fine. So they eventually get out of the woods. They go to their house. Everything still feels bad. And they live in the middle of their own set of woods. Mm-hmm. So things would happen consistently after that. Their cat that wanders around outside stopped going in the woods.
She would feel watched every time she went outside.
She stopped going outside herself for a while, which was really strange. She doesn't live there now anymore, so I don't know if anything else happened for a while after that. But yeah, she was absolutely miserable for a while. And I think we should break down what went wrong in that story.
Mm-hmm. The first thing was acknowledgement of it at all. I understand she definitely had to tell him that it was like that we needed to go, but it was like it's easier to do this when you are with someone that understands the rules or at least acknowledges them. Because like if it was you and me, all I would have had to done was literally, and we would have been gone. That's it. But that's not really anything that can be faulted. But of course he would acknowledge it, and he'd be like, "There's something behind us. There's something chasing us." Don't do that anyway. If you're wasting time by talking about it, just go.
Yeah. Something else was the speeding away. You can't run. We already talked about that. Running means flooring your car to get out of the area. That is the same thing as running.
No running, no flooring. If you're in a boat, don't jet it away.
Something else that's not really talked about. It's not really. Well, it is. But it's not just that you're running. It is the sudden change in what you're doing.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
that's why it's important to keep doing what you're already doing. Because let's say you're jogging through the woods.
Oh, yeah. If you're already jogging through the woods.
Keep jogging.
Yeah.
Keep your same speed. Because if you suddenly stop, what's that thing that just threw a bone to you? Like, okay, you caught the bone. It's going to look at you and realize that you realized that it was there.
Don't stop and look around. Don't try and listen for noises. If you heard something, no, you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. What else?
Another thing was he looked at it. He looked in the rearview mirror.
Don't look at these things.
You don't want to look at it anyway. You don't want to see it.
Like, that man's never going to forget that. You don't want that. You don't want to unpack that to a therapist.
No.
You don't put that on a therapist. Why is my throat so dry? So I think the next thing we are going to jump to is reading your stories. And I had asked on TikTok, I was like, hey, I'm going to do a special little thing. Can you guys send me some Appalachia stories? And we got a few. So I chose 2 that I thought we could read and then talk about. And again, please send me your stories because we are going to be doing this every single time. This is very centered around your stories. So if you just want us to tell a story, if you want us to tell a story and give you advice, literally whatever you want, this is us just talking about your stories with a little bit of ours here and there.
And these don't have to be your stories. They can be someone you know. This can be someone you heard of. This can be a friend of a friend of a friend. Just send it in and we'll read it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why my throat is so freaking dry. So I am going to leave, unless you tell me otherwise that you don't want to be anonymous, I'm going to leave it anonymous. So include that in your email and just tell me how much you want shared. Like, do you want your full government name that you put in your email shared? Do you just want your first name? Just let me know. Otherwise, I am leaving it anonymous. So these 2 will be left anonymous. All right. Get cozy. Let me read you guys a story. Hey Morgan, how are you? I think this opportunity is so cool to start with, and I also love your videos so much. Thank you. The spooky story. So originally I'm from Texas, and I've always heard about spooky Appalachia tales and lore from my fiance who grew up in Tennessee. I always thought he was being so extra or making up stuff just to put the fear in me, but honestly ever since I've experienced it for myself, I believe everyone. I believe everything when they say don't go in the woods alone, or if you hear something, no you didn't. It was around the year of 2020 or maybe 2021, I can't exactly remember, but it was around fall during September or October. My fiancé and his buddies came over to our farm one day. Mind you, my fiancé's family owns about 100 acres, so they got a pretty good stretch of land that's just woods before it hits the road on the other side. We were just bored 20-year-olds looking for shit to get into, just messing around outside by our horse pasture. We heard some random noises, and we couldn't really tell if it was animals or what, but we really didn't think much of it. My fiancé's buddy suddenly just got the urge to go out further into the woods, saying he heard something. We didn't really want to go further in it, so we just kind of let him go by himself. We did follow behind him a bit, then we just stopped and ended up walking back to the front part of the pasture. We were telling his buddy before he walked all the way in, like, dude, are you good? You don't have to go in all the way in. It's probably just animals or something. He didn't listen. We noticed 5 minutes had gone by and his buddy didn't come back from the woods yet. We're thinking maybe he's messing around with us or just pissing somewhere off a rock. We go into the woods further to try and look for him. We yell his name and call out. We call out about 20 times, but nothing. We thought this was super odd. I mean, my fiancé and his buddy have been friends since middle school. They grew up playing in these woods. He would never get lost. His buddy knows this place like the back of his hand. We spent maybe like a good hour just looking for his buddy and calling out his name back and forth until we decided that he'll come out, I guess, when he wants. Another 30 minutes go by, and eventually his buddy does come out of the woods. He was like, "Where were y'all? I've been calling y'all's name and nothing?" We look at each other all confused. "What do you mean? We've been calling your name for over an hour, and we couldn't find you, so we walked back. Are you good?" His buddy says, "No, dude, I was only out there for around 5 minutes looking for y'all, and I couldn't hear y'all, so I walked back out, but I kind of got lost, so it took me a while." The look on his buddy's face whenever we told him that he's been gone for over an hour was just the most worried-eyed look that I had ever seen. We got goosebumps at the same time, and I just didn't know what to say. It was the most odd experience ever. His buddy still to this day doesn't know why he just went out by himself. It was like something was wanting him to go. He gets the goosebumps whenever we bring it up and doesn't really like to talk about it. He never really explained what he did or saw out there. He said it was very weird and eerie when he looks back on it. But we've all learned our lesson to never go out in the woods alone. It's just a very odd feeling of being watched. The wind makes the trees talk. It's 2025 now, but sometimes I think about this occasionally. It gives me weird vibes. I'm always home with our 2 kids. I cover my windows now. I just get the most eerie feeling when looking out into those woods. I still have never walked the whole 100 acres of my fiance's family's farm. We've been together for 8 years, and I don't think I'll ever go back out there. Thank you again. I hope you get my story and like it. It's not really scary. What do you mean?
For who? What else has happened to you that makes this not scary?
Oh my god!
That's terrifying.
But that actually does bring up something that happens in these woods a lot that I think we should talk about. Because with all of the rules that are talked about, this one might be talked about the least. Mm-hmm. And that is the fact of you can sometimes walk into the woods and lose all sense of your bearings, all sense of time, where you are,
direction.
Who you are, direction, everything goes.
And this is something that's been displayed in movies, but this is something that really genuinely happens. Whether this is a matter of you feel like you were sent through some sort of like time vortex or something like this, where time genuinely moved faster or slower for you, or if you just become so disoriented out there that you feel like time has been so much faster than it actually is. I mean, this has happened to us in examples of time, but you can go out in the woods and it feels like you've just been gone for like 2 minutes when you've been gone for hours.
Yeah. And that is used for a specific reason with these creatures. It's literally to disorient you, to confuse you and make you extremely vulnerable, and to isolate you because, I mean, look what happened with him. He was with his friends, and all of a sudden he was like, I need to go into the woods. Mm-hmm. Red flag number one.
Yeah.
If you are with a group of people and one of them's like, I need to do something by myself, and you're in Appalachia, grab them.
Exactly.
Put some sort of leash on them. I don't care. Don't let them go out to the woods. But, that is something that's used all the time. And it's literally just an isolation, manipulation, psychological warfare tactic that they use.
If you do not have a legitimate reason for going into the woods and you just feel like going, don't. Especially not by yourself.
That reminds me of this one story that was sent to me. I think it took place in Appalachia. Keep in mind, this stuff happens literally everywhere. But I just remember this one person was riding their bike through a trail that they had always rode through. They were meeting with friends, and they turned to leave. And again, they'd been there hundreds of times, and they got lost. They couldn't find their way out. Finally found their way out. They get lost going to their neighborhood. Like, they're back out in their town. They're lost in their neighborhood. Nothing makes sense. They get out their phone to track it. They have literally passed their house. And they didn't see that they passed their house.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost, I think it was 3 hours. It was nighttime by the time they got back. That's something else. These things will make you lose time so that you are in those woods after dark.
God, that's probably one of the most terrifying things that can happen to you is just absolute disorientation. And you're right, these creatures make that happen so you stay out later. It's also just meant to give you a more scared and terrifying feeling, something that they want their prey to feel.
Alright, story number 2, out of the 2 that we chose.
Alright. I moved to Ohio from Florida 2 years ago in late October. I started dating my now boyfriend in late November. I had always heard of creepy things in Ohio in general, but also of the tales of Appalachia. Little did I ever think I'd actually have an experience of my own. At the time, I lived in Worcester and drove to Akron for work, working at a night shift job. I took lots of back roads before I would finally reach the highway. There were a few times I thought I saw something on the side of the road that looked a little off, but never much thought of it as being anything other than woods and cornfields. That is until my boyfriend was in the car with me, going to this place in Medina. As we were driving another similar stretch of nothingness, cornfields, and very small towns with a gas station and nothing else, we both saw a deer-like creature. Mind you, the deer here are very unafraid of humans, but this wasn't like any deer I'd ever seen or grew up hunting. It was mangled, gray, and way too human-like. Its eyes flashed red as we passed. We were both in the middle of a conversation when we just stopped, looked out the side mirrors, and he had asked, "Did you just see that?" What was that? It was bent over weird. Was it a deer? I quickly said, "Shut up, we don't talk about it, keep driving." A couple of days later, I finally told him about the lure and what I thought it could be. For weeks after that, every time I went to work or to his house, 2 opposite directions from my town, I saw the creature. Once I hit the highway and there were streetlights, it was always gone. Twice I thought I saw something weird hanging around outside of my house at night, but I never went to investigate. Thank God I don't live there anymore. I have so many ghost stories as well from ever since I can remember, so I might just start submitting the really wacky ones as time goes on and you ask for that. The really wacky ones? You saw a rotting deer staring at you, and that's not wacky enough? Yes, please send more. Let's go ahead and break that down a little bit. That's eerily similar to our friend's story. I mean, it was gray. It was mangled.
Something that skeptics, though, say when you bring that up is chronic wasting disease, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I am here to tell you now, these creatures don't look anything like that. I have seen deer with that. It is not the same thing, and you can tell the difference.
No, and also, chronic wasting disease all day long. What's with the glowing red eyes? That's no, absolutely not. Also, I'm not going to sit here and say that chronic wasting disease is like, not a real thing. It's absolutely a real thing. It's an epidemic among deer. But it's like to see it that often in such a similar and reoccurring spot, that's not chronic wasting disease. You're dealing with something following you.
But again, the red eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a way to, like, dismiss things, which I'm, again, not discrediting. Mm-hmm. It's real, but here's the thing. You have to think, people that grew up here, myself included, if we've been here our entire lives and we're telling you, hey, I heard something, and it's not like anything I've ever heard, you need to listen. Because, I mean, I grew up on a farm, so when I tell you that the scream that I heard from the story at the beginning of this was unlike anything I ever heard, it was not normal. I would have heard, I know what coyotes sound like, I know what mountain lions sound like, I know what bobcats sound like. It wasn't any of that.
No.
And so, with this story, someone's like, hey, I live in Ohio, I see this deer, it doesn't look normal. It's like, I feel like the first thing to do is like chronic wasting disease. They probably know what that looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not that.
And, like, here's the thing. I understand that there's going to be skeptics when it comes to everything. There's a few things that I'm skeptical about myself, but it's like, it's like you said, if you've lived here your entire life, you're going to understand the difference. And also, like, what's the harm in taking a few precautionary measures? I mean, what's it to say be more safe in the woods? Absolutely, always be more safe in the woods. These demonic and cryptic creatures are like, they're a threat, but so are bears, so are mountain lions. So if you want to be a bit more precautious in the woods, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's something I always say on my channels. So the rules of Appalachia, which I would be down in an episode if you guys want to just lay out all of the rules that I've learned and that I follow myself here. Even if you don't believe in the folklore and the legends, it'll keep you safe from wildlife. Mm-hmm. What is the harm of just knowing it and knowing how to react around any predator in the woods? I mean, it doesn't matter. And it'll help you regardless. So if that's something you guys want, I can do that.
These were really good stories to start off the podcast with.
Yeah, I'm terrified. I hope you guys are as scared as we are. Luckily for you, I am nice, and I gave this to you at 8 o'clock in the morning. So you're listening. You might be listening to this early. I don't know. Maybe you're like me and you save scary stuff for nighttime. I have no idea what you do in your spare time.
And hopefully you're not driving down the roads in the back roads of Ohio while reading this at night.
Wouldn't that just be horrible? I can't afford your all's therapy bills. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But with that, please send in your stories. There's that email one more time. Insert email. Please send those in from literally anywhere in the world. We welcome them from Appalachia, the Rocky Mountains, literally anywhere.
Greenland, Canada.
Send me some stories from the outback of Australia. Those
West Africa.
Yes, anywhere.
The Highlands of Scotland.
Scottish Highlands?
What's the difference?
I don't know what you just said. There's a difference, I fear. That sounds like a breed of cattle.
That is a breed of cattle, actually. The Highland cows.
Okay, that's right. That's what I was thinking of. But yes, please send those in, and I look forward to reading every single one of them. I am not reading any stories before we get on here, because I want to live react with you guys. That's what we did tonight, because I think that's fun. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing this more.
I do too. This episode's on the shorter side. I don't look for them to be all this short. My goal is for them to all be at least half an hour long. Some might be longer, some might be shorter, but that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully you guys don't get sick of us. I would sit here and talk for hours, but you guys may never come back and watch another video. Like, no one needs that.
But yeah, thank you all for watching so much, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye.